Hello and welcome to my new tutorial where we are going to have a look on some Mari stuff, and I want to show you guys how we can set up a pretty cool project template that we can utilize whenever we do a project. So you maybe wonder why we should make a project template, and in short, it's going to help us to give us a kickstart whenever we do a project. So we don't have to go all the time in and create all the small little settings like set up the lights, what channels do we want, and connect the nodes and create the shader and stuff like that. And I think the easiest is to just show it to you guys. So the way how I set it up is I have here a little dummy scene, and here a little shout out to Tom Newberry. Actually, I saw it in one of his courses that he actually is doing it by a dummy scene where he just copy pastes the project file. So yeah, here a little shout out. So I have stolen that from him. It's pretty genius. And let's do so. So we go here and right click and just duplicate that file, and then we rename it or just double click and open it. And then as you can see, we have here already a bunch of nodes. And so as a super short little recap, so as I said, this is a dummy scene. I have just created a usual project where I've imported just a Pixar teapot. You can use whatever you want. You can use a sphere or a dragon, whatever you want. I would just suggest something small so that's actually open fairly quickly and the project size is not huge. So from here on then I just created a light, and we can have a look what I have. In my scene I will only have an HDR light. It's one of my own. It's a black and white one so that I can just paint without get any color influence from it. I've rotated a bit and just set some basic settings, and I have set the intensity to a point where I can say this is in a reasonable mid-gray value I have here in my scene. This is going to make sure that my colors won't be too dark or too bright. So for example, if your HDR image will be, or your light setup will be too bright, then all your colors will probably be too dark. Or if your scene will be too dark, then all your colors will probably be too bright. That's why it's a pretty good habit to have in your texturing scene and also in your look of scene a neutral starting point with a reasonable mid-gray value. So then let's have a look here on a little node setup. Here I have an Arnold standard surface shader just because for me it's giving me the most representative material preview, or let's say just the most prettiest material preview. And here I just have super basic settings. So I've set the IR to 1.5. I think the default is 1.52 or so. I just find it a bit odd, but it shouldn't make any big difference. And then I have here connected a whole lot of nodes. And yeah, before I forget it here, the bump I have set to 1 and to bump mode accurate. That means the bump will have of course, a strength of 1, and it's going to give me a more accurate representation. And I'm going to use the bump input to display my displacement map. It's actually pretty cool that you can do that in Mari by just connect your bump stream and displacement stream, whatever, as long as it's grayscale, just put it into the bump and then you will have a pretty nice representation of your displacement map. So the way how I like to work is I have here this node presets. So here we can see I have just channels. I like to delete the ones that I'm not going to use. So in this case, maybe I'm going to use all of them because the guy has metal feeds, whatever. If you're not having metalness, then you just delete it so that you just have in your scene what you're going to use. I have placed here some clamp nodes on some channels where I know here I want to be sure that my values are not going beyond whatever and end up in nirvana. Here I have two little gizmos. They just allow me to add some grayscale displacement maps or bump maps together, and here a little XYZ unpacker, or yeah, it's a little helper to blend channel packed displacement maps. Here we can see I will always store my masks. They are clamped as well, and I have a vector combine, so with that I can then just channel pack my masks, which is super handy. I can only export one texture file and I can store 3 masks in it. So this is quite good in terms of performance, or also in file size not file size, and kind of like how much disk space it's going to be used for your project. So it's quite optimized. Then here we can see I have a little preset block of a material. So the way how I've set it up is we have the multi-channel merge, and I'm using here a different, as you can see, I'm using here a different multi-channel setup. The way, or the reason why I'm using it is it has way less inputs and outputs than the one from Arnold. You still can use the Arnold shader to preview. So those multi-channel nodes, they're basically just group nodes. So we can even dive into them. So by control double click here in the name, we can jump into it, and we can see we have here the regular Mari vanilla nodes that we know already from our Mari texturing, and kind of the multi-channel nodes, they're giving us an interface to handle them, which is pretty cool. So from here on, actually it's interesting why it's not detecting the channels, which I probably need to investigate why. So then let's go further. Then here we can see here I have my material, and here's my material node, and here is my mask, and I have a teleport node. So I like to have the masks grouped here inside, that it's actually a bit more real estate here, that looks a bit better here in my node graph. So then I can always see, okay, everything in this backdrop is related to this material. I'm going to name it then usually, so especially when you're in production, so name it always. So this will be probably mat body, whatever, and then this will be the mask body, and then this will be the broadcast mask body, and then we have here the material body. So then we always know, hey, this is everything that is body related or to this material related is just within that backdrop. So we never have to search for it in a huge node graph. I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest. So we can just dive into that, and then we can go in here crazy as much as we want. And then we know, hey, everything in here is just related to our body material. And then here the broadcaster will be done for exporting also the mask for that. And the same goes for the material here. So we see here we just have some basic nodes that are already connected. So it's a non-metallic, so it's black, and then you can kind of set it up the way how you want, the way how you like to work. And I have here just some basic values here. It's ready for channel packing the displacement map, and then ready to go. So currently this mask is black. So I like to start, as I said, with mid-gray material. So this is just this 18% gray, it's non-metal, the specular is 100% white, and the constant is 0.65, and here it's just mid-gray. So I like to do that I never have somewhere an area where I don't have a material. So when I export the textures, for example, let's say I have made a first pass of the body and I want to render that. This is going to make sure that also here at the top and his feet, it will also have a material, which will be then just basic, just mid-gray. So this will always be my bottom material, and from here on I will then just always add to my stream. And the way how I do that is here I just make a bit more space and then have here my preset, and then I can just Ctrl+C and then just Ctrl+V it. And then here we have it, we can connect it. And there we go, we have our next material, and this could be probably a plastic feet or metal feet, whatever the guy has. And then we can go from here, right? So then we can just keep adding materials to it, and then we have it. So let's say this is just our dummy scene. Now we want to know how we can get our main object in here. And this is actually pretty straightforward. So we can go to object. As you can see, I have here made a bit of my own UI. You can probably find it somewhere here on the right side or wherever you have placed it. Yeah, you just have to go into the object panel here, and then we can go here to our object. And then if you have the extension pack, you can simply press here the button, add a version. If it's not with the extension pack, I think it's right click. I'm not even fully sure, to be honest. I'm using the extension pack since the beginning. I can highly recommend to get it, actually. It's a nice addition. So I know I have some assets lying around here on my D drive. So let's grab that. Probably let's get that guy assets. I don't know. Can pick the USD. Why not? Let's see what we get. Here, make selection groups for all the meshes, and then let's import. So when it's imported, you will see nothing happened, and that's because we have it imported as a version. We need to switch here the version, and then boom, there we have it. So let's frame that guy, and then we have our org here. So I like to work clean. That means I want to delete this guy. So we're going to kill here this version, this little trash can here, and gone. So what we also see here, the guy is still called teapot. So we want to rename that, right click, and then rename version. And then we have, oh no, it's the, I think, let's quickly find out. Yeah, it's just the version. I'm sorry, we can just double click here. And then we have it here. So here I'll probably leave it with the versions. Then you always know what kind of asset version you have that, or when you are in production, then it's also quite handy that you can have a look what version you were using currently and if it's probably outdated or if you need a new one. And from here on, then we can just go subdivide the geometry that we have it subdivided, then we are ready to go. So as you can see, this is a pretty straightforward workflow, I guess, and we don't have to deal all the time with the setup, with the channels, and dial every time in our lighting, and every time we have to connect here our nodes, just that we can start. Every time we are losing time with that. With that, we can have a super nice kickstart. So then we can just go in and start creating here our materials. So for an isolation mask here, we don't need high resolution. We can connect it and we see all everything will get now blue, and then we can, for example, go in and select the pieces we want to have isolated. So since this is the body, let's go here, face mode, connected mesh, double click here, now we have the body. And then with our paint node here, right click, fill with white. Ah, shit, I did a mistake. I should have make black paint node, I'm sorry. So let's get that guy, so nothing happens. And then here, right click, fill with white. And then there we go. Now we see we have isolated here our first material. And the way how you want to work with your setup, or the way how you want to set it up, is totally up to you. So I'm not going to say you have to use here this setup, but my main point is how we can set up an efficient starting point for our assets, that we don't have to lose time with setting up the projects every time we do an asset. So I think this is especially cool when you are in production. So then their time is money, and then you don't have to lose time. So I can recommend to play around with different kind of workflows and develop there a workflow that works for you. And then, for example, you can always go into your project template, and when you found something out that works better, or probably you have to fix it because you found out, oh shit, this is broken, then you can just go in and change it here, and then it works. And then, yeah, you have always a clean starting point. So yeah, this is basically it. And I hope this was actually learnful for you and will help you in your 3D texturing, surfacing journey. And I also hope that we see us in the next video again. So happy texturing. See you then. Bye bye.